Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to my channel, to my wonderland. It is coffee time. Today I have a very interesting guest. As you can see, Chucky is here with me today, and I'm here to review for you Child's Play, the reboot from 2019. I'm really excited to review this movie for you guys, so grab your cups of coffee and let's start.
It's coffee time.
Alright guys, so I'm ready. I have here my notes on the review so that I don't forget anything that I wanted to talk to you about. And let's start. So basically, Child's Play, it is a 2019 movie directed by Lars Klemberg, and it was pitched as a remake slash reboot, and I see why. It does tend to, copy a little bit the original in some things. I think they were just trying to maintain a little bit the spirit of the movie, but I do see it more as a reboot. This movie was officially announced in 2018, and it was gonna be the first movie in the franchise that was not gonna have the cooperation of Don Mancini, which is the creator of the series, or Brad Dourif, which for everybody is Chucky. So it was kind of like weird for people, including myself. I didn't understand the need of a reboot, and also because the original franchise is still going strong. I believe there are talks now about a TV show, so I was a little bit concerned about this reboot. Our main story now, it is based on a company. It's called Caslan Corp, and they basically produce all types of electronics, and one of those things is a doll, which is a robot in a way. So we're moving from a regular doll to a robot, so we are modernizing the concept of, Chucky in a way. And basically these dolls are able to connect to all kind of electronic devices in your house, and they're supposed to be your child's best friend. And I absolutely loved this new concept, the way that they took the main idea of the movie from 1988 and they kind of turn it into something that could be adapted into the modern society. So it is basically a gory slasher movie about a killing doll slash robot in this case, and it is a little bit faithful, like on the main spirit, to the original movie of 1988. The main plot of the movie is sort of similar to the original. We still have a single mom that is raising her kid, and we still have Andy, and basically they've moved to Chicago. They are starting a new life in a new apartment, and the kid is kind of having trouble to adapt. And in order to cheer him up, because his birthday is coming up, her mom decides to give him an early birthday present, which is the Buddy doll, which is something we will talk about in a second, because now it's not called Good Guy, it's called Buddy. And they this kind of new buddy that Andy gets, kind of starts to act weird and turns against the family. So in a sort of way, the main plot line, it is the same as on the original, but they've mostly changed everything else, and it was done in such a smart way that the movie worked really well. Talking about performances, I think Gabriel Bateman did an amazing job playing Andy, because kids in horror movies, it's always a little bit complicated. In this case, our main character is 13, so he is quite older than the Andy from the original movie. Disclaimer, I'm gonna mention the word original a lot in this video. So his performance was great. Like, you were feeling with him all the time. He was amazing on screen. And I absolutely love the dynamic that he had with his neighbor. So Aubrey Plaza plays Karen Barkley, which is Andy's mom, and I've heard people saying that they really loved her performance, and I did think that she did a good job. She had a tough job in this movie, because she was supposed to be this mom that is failing and is trying to do everything she can to catch up that relationship with her son, and she has to go through a lot of stuff through the movie. But in a way, she gave me the feeling that there was no real character progression. Maybe it was just me and it's something totally subjective, honestly, but I felt like her character had the least kind of emotional development through the movie. Like, you could see the other characters going through emotional roller coasters, and I thought for her, everything, even though some things shifted, she felt a little bit more like on a line, you know. But everybody in the movie did a great job. Thinking about it now, the performance from Aubrey Plaza for me might have been not as great as the other characters, because her situation was extremely cliche. I mean, obviously the detective was also a cliche, but in her situation, she was like this single mom that has a new boyfriend that her kid hates, and she has trouble reconnecting with her kid, and you know, she doesn't understand her kid, and it felt a little bit more like something for me was missing in their relationship in a way. Things that I loved about this movie is that they kept the original atmosphere of the movie. You got, you know, to keep the main plot. There are similarities. You're still in kind of like the same apartment, and I also love that Karen got the doll secondhand, sort of in a similar situation that you know, in the first movie. And I also absolutely love that the whole movie feels a lot like the 80s or early 90s, and I absolutely love that it gave you that feeling. It just, I think that made a lot on the positive for this movie. And I also absolutely love the way that they were able to take the original material and modernize it in a way that it still was kind of fresh in a way, you know, these old stories from Chucky that we all know, and it kind of gave it a fresh kind of new paint coat, and I absolutely love the way they did it. And I think if you were going to reboot Chucky, modernizing it like they did was definitely the way to go. This was better than I expected, especially because they changed so many things to make it into a new modernized version of the classic instead of just copying the whole thing. At the beginning I was concerned about Chucky, let's be honest, because I thought it was gonna be CG or something like that, and I was like, oh hell no. But they actually used like traditional puppetry, and they did have the puppet on set in order to shoot, and they used a little bit of CG on top, but it was great. I think the fact that they used, you know, puppetry was definitely the best thing they could have ever done. And of course there's some cliches like, oh, when the doll gets evil he gets red eyes, but all in all I think they kind of respected the character and he came alive in another way. Another thing that I loved is that it was so slasher gory. I did not expect it, and I was enjoying myself so much. I thought the deaths were amazing. I truly enjoyed myself, and that was definitely a plus point. Also, I loved and I appreciated that they brought a little bit of, you know, attention to disabilities in a way, because Andy in this new version has an ear impairment kind of device on his ear, and I love that they're portraying him like this, because this is totally normal. There are many kids that have this kind of disabilities, and it's great that they can see themselves in these movies, even though how many 13-year-olds are gonna watch Chucky or gonna be allowed to watch Chucky, I don't know. But you know, it's great to bring this kind of representation into the movies because it just feels realistic. Also, the humor of the movie was amazing. I laughed so hard, and the Chucky movies have always been about slasher and humor. That's what they are. They are not meant to be scary and creepy. They're just meant to be slashers with humor, and this is what they did in this movie. And I thought also the new song was amazing that Buddy sings, you know, to remember Andy, that they're friends to the end. And can you tell that I really like this reboot more than I thought? I think you can tell. So now we are entering the spoiler part of the review, where I'm going to go a little bit more into detail on certain scenes or certain similarities between the original and the reboot, and commenting a little bit on things that I loved a little bit more into detail. So if you have not watched the movie, or if you don't want to be spoiled, just, come back to this video once you've watched the movie, which I totally recommend you to do. Alright, so let's go a little bit more into detail into the plot of this reboot. Basically, we have now this corporation called Caslan Corp, and they're this multinational company that produces all kind of high-tech products, and one of these products is the Buddy doll. And this Buddy doll is supposed to be able to be your son's or daughter's best friend, and also connect to all of different devices at your house. So it's all gonna be able to control the television, the radio, etc., everything that is electronic. So our movie starts with a presentation of a video of the Caslan Corporation introducing the Buddy dolls, and you get to see the factory where they are producing them, and you get to see we are in Vietnam, and one of the workers is being called off because he was lazy, and basically they fire him on the spot. And his way of getting revenge on the company is that while he's finishing the last body that he has to finish before he goes because he's fired, he removes certain behavior patterns that the robot had, so that it would become an evil weapon. And after he does this, he basically jumps off the window, killing himself. And we jump now to Chicago, where we have Karen and Andy moving to their new apartment. Andy is having a hard time adapting to their new life, their new apartment, and his mom doesn't know what to do, and she gets this Buddy doll returned because it's supposed to be damaged because the eyes turn red, and she decides to keep it for herself instead of returning it. And she decides to give it to Andy as an early birthday present in order to cheer him up. Andy turns on the Buddy doll, and yeah, they become best friends. So this is how our movie starts, and then obviously Chucky starts to show kind of evil behaviors, and Andy starts to realize that this doll might not be as friendly as he thought, and people start to die. Yeah, so this is where everything starts. And now let's go a little bit more into detail into the Easter eggs and the specific scenes and connections between movies. So let's talk about Caslan Corp. This is something that feels really realistic, because in a future we could have houses where all the electronics belong to either Amazon or Google. We're starting to see it already right now, so it is fantastic to see these in a movie. And also, let's talk the term Buddy. So the original doll where Child's Play got the inspiration from is actually called My Buddy, and for Child's Play 1988 they decided to just call him a good guy. But for the reboot they decided to change the name, keep it a little bit closer to the original, which was My Buddy. So now it's just called Buddy. And what they did is, like with the A, they've done what a lot of electronic companies have done, like iPhones and all of these things. They put like the little I, like it's supposed to be, for technology. And I love the whole concept of this futuristic company and a buddy that you can get, because this feels like it could literally happen. So when Andy first turns on Buddy, the doll asks him to give it a name, and Andy wants to call the doll Han Solo. And then the doll says Chucky, and that's basically it. The doll names itself. But I understand the joke, because if you probably know, Mark Hamill is the voice of the new Child's Play movie. He's the new voice of Chucky, and I thought the joke would have been better if he would have wanted to call the doll Luke Skywalker, because then it would have made more sense. But I thought that was like a really nice wink. And then Mark Hamill as the voice of Chucky was great. He's an amazing voice actor. We've already seen in previous jobs that Mark Hamill has done. I absolutely loved everything about that. The performance was amazing. The only thing that I was missing is the very memorable Chucky's laugh that I didn't hear throughout the whole movie. And that is one of the things that I missed, you know, that I wish that it would have been there. The main difference with our murder doll is that in the first original movie, it was a murderer that basically transferred his soul into the doll, and in this case we just have a robot that, due to the changes that were made on the program, turns evil. Some people have criticized that in the original movie there was a justification why Chucky was killing people, because obviously he was Charles LeRae, he was this murderer, so obviously that's what he did. But I do think that it is perfectly justified in this movie, because we see an evolution of Chucky, and the thing is, you need to remember he was, you know, tampered with, so his database has been tampered with, and at some point he is just, you know, he's focused on his Andy's best friend, so he's gonna do anything for him, he's gonna protect him no matter what. So when things start to happen that might endanger Andy, or that, you know, upset Andy, make him sad, Chucky's gonna do anything it takes to protect Andy. And he's basically learning for behavior that he's seeing in, you know, the house. The kids are watching horror movies, and Chucky is just learning all of these things, and he doesn't know that it's wrong. He just thinks he's protecting Andy, which is his best friend, and you know, if that means killing people, well, then he's gonna kill people. One feature that I really liked about this booty is that he has the ability of replaying the last seconds or the last couple of minutes that he recorded. So there is this really creepy scene where Andy is sleeping in bed and Chucky is in like a dark corner, and he's replaying the last kind of minute of the cat before he murdered the cat. And I thought that was great, and that was brought back later on in the movie, the fact that he can replay stuff when he, you know, took care of the kind of stepdad kind of situation, which we all wanted him to get to get rid of. So I absolutely loved that feature, and I thought it was something really nice and a like cute little creepy detail. More things that I loved about this modern take on the doll is that Woody comes with an app, so at some point you're able to see his perspective when he's about to kill somebody or on the run. And I also love that he's able to communicate with Andy via these hearing impairing aid that he has, and he's only to talk to Andy with nobody else hearing. I love those details. In the original, it was hard for people to believe that the doll was actually killing people, because it was a doll, that it was not alive, you know. If you didn't see it moving, then you would assume it was not alive. In this one, it's a little bit harder to get other people to believe you, because it is this super high-tech intelligent robot that moved and, you know, did things around the house. So, you know, it was harder for people to believe you that it was an evil entity. And one thing that they do have in common, the original Chucky doll and Buddy, is that they are killed in the same way. Basically, in the first movie, they tell us you need to shoot it to the heart to kill it, which they do in the first movie. And in this movie, when they are trying to kind of disconnect him, they also take this kind of like little cylinder that he has on his heart, which is basically what controls the whole robot. Another thing that is similar is this detective scene from Norris in the first movie when he's being terrorized in the car by Chucky. We get the same thing kind of in the reboot with Mrs. Norris, which is the detective's mom. And just in this case, we are in an Uber car, which, you know, controls itself by an intelligence computer. And I love that they kept sort of like the same angles in which Chucky was terrorizing both characters, and I really love that detail. One of my favorite things from the movie was the third act that took place in the store, because it reminded me of my favorite thing of the whole franchise, which was the factory scene on Child's Play 2. It's one of the reasons why Child's Play is my favorite, really close to the original one, to the first one. But that factory scene was so great that I love it so much, and it kind of took me back there in a way, and I absolutely love to get that feeling back. I really did appreciate that. So let's go to some fun facts. In the first movie, as well as in the reboot, the first death is by falling off a window and landing into a car. In the first movie, we have Karen's best friend that gets scared by Chucky, goes out the window, lands in a car. And in the reboot, we have this worker in Vietnam that got fired, so after he tampered with the robot, he just jumps off the window and falls into the car. Also in the reboot, the kids are watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is also a gory slasher that it's also contains a lot of humor like the Child's Play movies. And I love the fact that after Chucky watched that movie, he started, you know, to play with a knife and ended up kind of giving them a leather face of shame. I also love that they got back the mascot from Chucky that we have seen in commercials before. And I absolutely love that part, and that death was just fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And they also brought in the third act the police car that was in Child's Play 3. So there is a lot of Easter eggs all over the movie. I'm not gonna go into detail into all of them, but I just thought they did such a great job modernizing a franchise that is so iconic without killing it, and keeping the main spirit, the main core, and making something that was fun to watch. It was a great slasher, and it was fun. Now let's talk some theories of a possible sequel. So I have 3 theories for you. So in Child's Play, Chucky ends exactly like in the original. He's been shot to the heart and his head is being pulled off. So the theories are, first, that they're going to reconstruct Chucky like they did in Child's Play 2, and thus bringing him back to life. The second theory is that this was not the only damaged robot. Maybe another employee or the same one had tampered with other of these products. And number 3, that Chucky kind of did a backup, like, you know, and put his kind of AI into some sort of other machine. Because at the very end of Child's Play, we see this body doll in the box and the eyes turn red, so it's kind of already indicating a sequel. Now that we're talking about boxes, I remembered something that I had to criticize about the movie. I mean, it's not really a big deal, but it's something that we've seen done before and that still makes no sense to me. That is basically that when Andy and his friends think they've defeated Chucky, they throw him basically down this garbage bin, and the neighbor, the creepy neighbor, finds him, restores him, and then Chucky kills the creepy neighbor. Amazing death. And Chucky decides, okay, I'm gonna get back to Andy, but I'm gonna do it in a very sneaky way. So he decides it's going to be Andy's neighbor's new buddy. So in order for the neighbor to receive him, he puts himself in the back in the box, yeah, and then it's all wrapped up with gift paper, and then it's basically standing in front of the neighbor's door, all wrapped up. So how did Chucky wrap himself up in that kind of like gift paper wrap? if he was inside the box and he was alone because he had just killed the creepy neighbor. Like, that is the only thing that I was like, this does not make much sense to me. So if you enjoyed Child's Play, I think just look out for any classic slashers with humor, like the same Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Why not? That is a great movie. Scream was a great slasher that had a little bit of humor, and it was great when it came out. I would recommend you to also check some of the Friday the 13th, because they're kind of also movies with a little bit of humor. Yeah, so if you like this one, I would say go take a look at some classic slashers, because you're definitely gonna be in for those. And my final rating of the movie, I'm gonna give this movie a really high rating. I'm gonna give it 8 out of 10 because it did a great job when it comes to the story. It developed a completely new story based in a more futuristic modern society, and it paid off. The humor was great, the jokes all landed, they kept all of this 80s feeling, they kept the spirit of the main character Chucky sort of alive, you know, like of course there were changes, but I just thought it was a great reboot. It was fun to watch, it was a fun slasher, and super enjoyable. Definitely a movie that I would rewatch anytime. So that's why I'm giving it 8 out of 10. So you guys, this was my full review on Child's Play 2019. Let me know down below what you thought about the movie, if you agreed to some of the things that I've mentioned in this video. If you made it to the end, you're a champ. Thank you so much for all your support, and let me know down below if there's any other particular movie that you would like me to review so that I can get to that. If you want to follow me in Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, the links are in the description box down below. And if you're not a subscriber yet, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more coffee times with me. And if you want to be notified whenever I upload a new video, click on the bell as well. But normally my upload times are Mondays and Thursdays, so watch out for my videos on those 2 days, and I'll see you all in the next coffee time.